is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That is brand new music from Ellefson. The tune is called Simple Truth. It is a fundraising song for the people of Italy, and it is, even if it wasn't a fundraising song, it's just a cool song. It's a great tune. And on the line right now is the vocalist of that song. He's toured the world now with Mr. David Ellefson, and he's established his own identity as a entrepreneur of everything metal these days. He's involved with everything. Of course, I'm talking about my old friend, Mr. Thom Hazaert. Tom, how are you, my friend?
Yay, good, man. Good. I'm great. You know, the song, it's so cool. It wasn't intended. It didn't start out as like a fundraiser song, but we actually wrote it. So we toured Europe last year. We did like 9 shows in Italy, and half of our band, our Andy Martingelli, our guitar player, and Paolo Caridi, our drummer, live in Italy. So we actually wrote that song in Milan during a rehearsal for our tour last year. And then we kind of tracked it over the course of the last couple months. And then we were sort of finishing up as this quarantine thing was happening. And they were over in Italy, kind of at ground zero for this fucking thing. And that's kind of how the whole thing came up with. I'm like, look, why don't we just give the proceeds? So we're donating all the proceeds from that single to the Italian Red Cross, who are kind of in the forefront of the COVID-19 coordination efforts there in Italy, and always a great organization. So we decided, look, we'll put out the single, and any proceeds from that single, again, and it was just a taste. We were going to put it out anyway. We're going to put it out in a month or two. We just kind of rushed the timeline up a little bit, and I'm stoked. We've been sitting on that song for months, and I just couldn't wait for people to hear it. Everybody I played it to kind of loved it, and I was just like, God, can we just put it out already? And I mean, it wasn't even supposed to come out till Friday on Bandcamp. Just this morning, honestly, I just kind of got itchy, and I had it all there. I just had my team just push it out. I'm like, you know what, fuck it, let's just push it out today. So everybody got a little surprise this morning, and David went on Eddie Trunk on Friday and premiered it and talked about everything we're doing with the Ellefson Youth Music Foundation and everything else. So it's fun, man. I've been getting to do a bunch of this, and so has David, and we've really been able to get out and talk about it and all the cool things we're doing right now in this downtime from the real world.
Sure. Well, and you mentioned the Youth Foundation. It's the David Ellefson Youth Music Foundation, and it's a great cause all by itself. One of the many things you guys are doing. Talk a little bit about the foundation and what led you and or David, I'm assuming both, to not only form the foundation, but to put forth such an effort to work with kids and with people, to learn music.
Yeah, sure. Look, me and David, we were talking at some point. Obviously, David's always been, pretty active with charitable things, and I've always tried to do things in that vein. So we were just talking about, we actually started about doing a charity, about doing some kind of foundation, and just through the natural course of conversation, obviously music and music education is very important to both of us. David, says it all the time. He grew up in Jackson, Minnesota. He first played music in the school band. I mean, so when we launched the foundation, we actually went back to Jackson, David's hometown. The mayor declared David Ellefson Day in Jackson. And we went back on that day, and we launched the foundation with an event at the high school for the whole student body. Me and David kind of spoke to all the students and talked about music education. Jackson and Hartkey and some of our sponsors gave us some gear and some stuff that we donated to the school's music program. And that was just kind of the launch. And we did some other stuff. We were partnered with the Grammy Music Education Coalition, which is another amazing, like-minded organization that supports school music programs. Generally, it's funny, our kind of focus is sort of, more on like rural areas and kind of like the places me and David came from, and the GMEC is really kind of focused in inner city. Me and David and Bumblefoot last year before we were on tour, and we went to Boston and we did an event with the Grammy Music Education Coalition, which was just amazing. So it's been really cool to reach out on both sides of the aisle, doing stuff with, personally with the foundation and then with the Grammy Music Education Coalition. And, the coolest thing about all this is I've been trying to find time for 2 years to really immerse myself more in the foundation and our work and the things we're doing. And I just didn't have time with the records and the labels and combat and all the stuff we were doing and touring the world and doing all this stuff. So it's basically like the universe said, everything you're doing doesn't matter anymore. So, and it really just became this opportunity where I've been able to fully, for the first time ever, immerse myself in just the charity work and the foundation. And just in that short time, we launched the Schools Out initiative and now this fundraiser thing we're doing on Saturday. And so, yeah, I mean, it really kind of in these few weeks since the, since the quarantine lockdown, and I've really been, for the most part, just fully immersed in the work of the foundation and David too. I mean, look, Megadeth was supposed to be recording a record right now. All their plans kind of got put on ice. So look, we both kind of just made a conscious decision that let's really focus our efforts on the foundation and do some good in this time when people, especially kids, really need it, So it's been wonderful.
Sure. Now, I was reading a little bit about the foundation and I saw the monster companies that you guys are working with, Dolby and FedEx and Cisco and whatnot. And I have to wonder, and this is definitely a you question, not an Ellefson question, because I know this had to be you. How in the world do you guys convince major corporations to work with a bunch of long-haired rocker guys?
I know. Look at me. It's so funny. We've had like Cisco and their WebEx platform, which is a corporate video conferencing platform that's wonderful. Right. That I shouldn't even be on Skype right now. I feel like a traitor, but no. So we've been using. We launched the Schools Out initiative, which basically is David and a bunch of our friends, Kiko and Dirk from Megadeth and Clint Lowry, and I wish my phone would shut up, and Nita Strauss and Chad Zaliga from Black Star Riders, and Chad, Cleveland boy, a bunch of our friends basically just giving Chris Cale from Five Finger Death Punch, basically just giving Chris Poland. I mean, it's just such a long list, giving lessons to kids over WebEx, and that's how we kind of got Cisco to partner with us. One of my friends, actually, Jason Gooley, who has a great little thing he does called Metal DevOps. He's one of the top engineers at Cisco. So, and we always talk about music and nerd out on tech stuff and whatever. So, it was all him, how the Cisco connection came to be, and Dolby has a new app that just launched called Dolby On that it's great. It's right on your phone and you can record mobile audio kind of on your device with Dolby quality. You can record video and you can stream from it directly to Facebook Live. And now they just launched Twitch integration. So we've been working with them on kind of the launch of that through the Grammy Music Education Coalition. So all these things kind of come to fruition from different places and from different avenues, you know what I mean? So it's been really cool. But yeah, we definitely, it's so funny though. We've been on corporate calls with Cisco and it's like me and this and David and then these like super corp, but they're all really cool. They're all super stoked to talk to David and they all love Megadeth, but they're in their suits and ties and,
right.
Nice military muster haircuts but they're all super sweet and super friendly. And we work with some of the greatest people in the world. And Cisco's been so generous. We just applied for a technology grant for, they have this is called a DX80 and it's basically a desktop all-in-one video conferencing platform. It's got a webcam built in and speakers and a mic, and I actually am running it as a secondary monitor too. So they're giving us a bunch of those for the instructors for the Schools Out initiative, and they've been super generous and great. And they do a lot of amazing charity stuff within the company with their giving back initiative. So again, I can't say enough great things about Cisco and Dolby and the Grammy Music Education Coalition and Jackson and Hartke and Samson and Sure and all the companies that sponsor us and all of our other endeavors too.
Dude, I would give anything for a photo of you guys walking into a conference room with a bunch of suited up guys and you two walking into that conference.
But it's so funny. We do it all the time and we catch them off guard because we walk in and we just look like rock and roll. Right. I was doing an interview last week and they're kind of talking about this whole quarantine situation and the COVID-19 and they're like, well, look, the real voice of reason is people like you and Dave. And I'm like, it's really a sad state of affairs when this scumbag long-haired rock and roll dude in a Motley Crue shirt is the voice of reason in any situation. But, we walk in and we kind of, again, people don't expect us to be as business-oriented and focused and kind of just ahead as we are when we come in. And people just go, oh, okay. At first they're, the novelty is kind of like, oh. And then they're like, oh, shit, okay, these guys are serious.
Exactly. Well, Tom, let's talk about the last, year or so in your life. The last time I talked to you, you were getting ready to tour. Now you've obviously toured, and the tour, to my knowledge, was super successful, and you reached a ton of people in a ton of places. I've got to imagine for you, who's always been behind the scenes, more or less, finding bands to be out front, it's a very different experience. Did you learn a bunch of new shit, or was it what you expected, or what?
I mean, like, I've been kind of teaching people how to do that for 25 years. You know what I mean? It's like, that's kind of what I did. So stuff I always sort of knew. I mean, like, you learn, there's nothing that's ever going to replace the experience of being on stage every night, night after night, for months and months and months at a time, you know? So again, I learned a lot as far as just personally, but you know, it's all concepts it's funny though, you can tell people how to do it, but until you go out and do it yourself, I mean, it's really a different perspective. But yeah, the last year's been amazing. Obviously, me and David put out the new book, More Life with Death. We put out the Sleeping Giants record, which did phenomenally well. It debuted on like 13 Billboard charts. The book sold out of the first printing in like a week and a half.
Right.
You know, so it's been, you know, phenomenally successful, very exciting. Then we went out and, you know, obviously did the tour in America, did a great book tour, a bunch of Barnes and Noble, a bunch of really cool FYE signings, a lot of really cool, you know, again, corporate retailers that really got behind it and were really supportive, and obviously some really cool independent retailers too that we went and did stuff with. But yeah, so we did the US tour, then we went and did the Megacruise, and that was, I mean, I can't even tell you how cool that was. Basically, obviously, as you know, Mustaine couldn't go. You know,
right.
He didn't go on the cruise because because of his cancer diagnosis. So me and David played, and Kiko and Dirk basically sat in with us. So I mean, we were the Megadeth of the Megacruise basically, and it was. I mean, I tell you what, you want to talk about nerve-wracking, and I mean, look, you know, the coolest thing about, I mean, again, it's just me. It's like just second nature. I sing this stuff in our songs and some of that Megadeth stuff, and it's just something like I've prepared my whole life to do. I mean, Megadeth has been my favorite band since I was 13 years old. You know what I mean? So it's like to step up there and sing Liar and Hook and Mouth and Peace Sells and Symphony, and yeah, a lot of the stuff we played is focused on like the older kind of So Far So Good, So What.
Right.
I mean, you know, I got that. You know, I stare at it all day. I mean, that's kind of more my period, is the early stuff. You know what I mean? So yeah, we play a lot of stuff that Megadeth didn't really play, but it was amazing, man, having Dirk and Kiko jump up with us, and you know, Megadeth management were all there, and Electra Mustaine was there, and it was just like no pressure, you know. But and it was packed. There was probably like 4,000 people in that room. It was crazy, but it was so cool because it was this really weird room with a low stage but huge, like the size of a theater, and it was just packed front to back. But it was like the stage, we were like just barely above the crowd. So it was like a club show, man. It was like seeing Megadeth in 1988 at like CBGB's, but like if it could hold 3,000 people, you know. But after, you know, Electra came up to me and said, you know, that was so great. Thank you so much for doing this for my dad and my family. And that really, I mean, that just made it all worth it. You know, what do you say to that? You know, it's a very humbling to be able to step into those shoes and just make people happy and kind of, again, give them, you know, a little taste of Megadeth, and hopefully I did it justice. And everybody, Dirk and Kiko and everybody else in management and Electra said I did. So, you know, it's definitely a humbling moment. Then we went from that straight to Europe. Obviously, the show we did with KK Downing, the More Live with Death show in Wolverhampton, so I went from basically that to the Judas Priest fanboy experience. So we went to England, and we did a show with KK, Les Binks, Ripper Owens, and AJ Mills, who now, as you know, all off of that formed KK's Priest, which basically started from that show, which started from me and David talking about doing a book event at KK's Steel Mill and seeing if KK wanted to do like a signing or meet and greet with us. I went to, hey, why don't you play a couple of songs with us, which turned into, hey, let's get Ripper and Les. And we built this whole Priest, super mega Priest band for the night. Right. That was David and all those guys. And so basically Blaze Bailey opened. Then me and David did our set with our band. And then David, Ripper, Les, AJ, and KK did a whole preset. And then I came back out for the encore, and me and Ripper sang Take on the World and Breaking the Law.
Okay.
Together. No. Yeah.
Yeah. You. Bottom line is you lived the experience.
Living after midnight. We did Living After Midnight. So, and it was amazing. I mean, it was really an amazing experience. So then we went from that to just doing our normal tour across a couple shows in the UK, across Italy, Switzerland, Europe, which was great. And then we came home, and we actually had Australia and Japan booked with Chris Poland for May. Obviously, that kind of got pushed back to next year now.
Right.
And I'd be remiss, I guess, if I didn't mention this. So I also, through this whole thing, now I'm singing with Chris Poland. So Chris got inducted into the Metal Hall of Fame at NAMM this year. And me and Phil Demmel inducted him. And so basically I snagged our backup band from the U.S. that we'd been touring with, Opus and Dave Sharp from Dead by Wednesday, and Ricky Bonazza, the bass player who plays with the Butcher Babies now. And Demmel ended up jamming with us too, which was awesome. So we basically became Chris's band. So we played, we played at the ceremony together with Chris, and then me and Demmel inducted Chris, and then Chris actually got up with Steve Vai and Joe. So basically the last two things of the night were us and Chris, and then Steve Vai and Joe Satriani. And they all got up, Satriani, Vai, Jeff Tate, and Chris Poland, and did Paranoid, which was awesome. And they all just, the three guitar players, it was like G3 for 10 minutes. It was amazing. So to get to be a part of that night with Chris and, kind of facilitate the thing with Vai and Satch. And then after we played, like, I kind of walked by Steve Vai and kind of bumped him, and he turned around and said, "Dude, that was fucking awesome. You were so entertaining to watch." I'm like, "Thank you, Steve Vai." Like again, it was one of those moments like with Electro, like you just like are just humbled and this big, and you're like, "Fuck," Thank you.
It's a long way from Flybanger and Ricketts, man. That's
it sure is.
And I'm not shitting on your band. I'm just saying, you went from kind of managing up and coming small bands to hobnobbing with the biggest artists in the world, man.
Well, look, a lot of those small bands became big bands, and again, I've just always kind of sort of been involved with a lot of stuff from the ground up. And look, this whole solo thing with David, look, we built it from the ground up, you know what I mean? I wish, that's what was so cool about it. Me and David built this whole thing. David had never done a solo thing ever, right. You know what I mean? And that's, in 30 plus years in Megadeth, he'd never done a solo thing. We did it at 5 in Temple of Brutality and something. We'd never done a proper David Ellefson solo band, right. And that was, again, it just built, and it was totally organic. Again, he was out doing the bass story thing, that concept that me and him came up with, and which again was kind of like a G3, like a bass clinic for him. He'd go out and play to an iPod and talk to people and tell stories.
Right.
And then it evolved into, we did it with a bunch of our combat bands, and they'd come up and they'd each learn a couple of Megadeth songs and jam with him. And then we went out doing a similar thing just with a backup band with really no vocals. And then it turned into, hey, you want to come up and sing P-Cells or come up and sing something? And one night, and I did. And then, all right, tomorrow we're going to do Devil's Island too. Okay. And then it turned into, we wrote some songs, and it was just this whole, last year in Tampa, we did this thing called the PBX Playback Independent Music Expo, which was like a music industry conference. It was me, David, Troy Sanders from Mastodon, Mike Klink, who produced Appetite for Destruction and Rest in Peace, Max Norman, right. Toby Wright, Jason Bieler, Head from Korn. I mean, the list goes on. And so Bumblefoot, Dirk was there. And so we did an all-star jam at an all-star jam bass story at the Brass Mug in Tampa. And so me, David, Bumblefoot, whoever played Mr. Brownstone, and then with Head and Dirk, we played Symphony. So, and Max Norman and Klink were there. So I had to sing Mr. Brownstone and Symphony of Destruction in front of the guys who produced them. So again, it's all these weird, surreal situations. But that led to me and David writing Vultures. I was like, dude, we worked with a studio in Tampa called Master Sound. I was like, let's just go in the studio and write a fucking song. So we did. We went in and wrote Vultures in like 10 minutes. We went in with Opus and Dave from Dead by Wednesday, and we just jammed. And literally, Dave had this riff, and it just turned into a song. And then the next day, we tracked it. I wrote some vocals, threw it down, and that became the basis of the Sleeping Giants record. And that started with, hey, let's do one song we can release with the book. And then again, everything we do has just been this organic process where it's never us trying to do anything. It's just kind of, well, we might as well try this now, and it just evolves into this cooler and cooler thing. And now this record we're writing now, I mean, I'm biased, but it's fucking mind blowing. I mean, even David, like, as we write this stuff, I mean, he's, the cool thing is it doesn't sound like Megadeth at all. I mean, right. I think it's heavy enough and in the pocket enough that Megadeth fans will like it and appreciate it. but it really showcases Dave. I mean, you listen to Simple Truth and you hear the, you know, I mean, you hear it, you know, it's David. And those are the moments when I hear it as a fan and go, holy shit, I'm in a band with the guy from Megadeth, you know?
Exactly. Now, I'm curious, have you met with Mustaine since you've been singing with David at all?
Nope.
No.
I have interacted. I'll tell you this. I have interacted with Dave Mustaine twice in the entire time I've worked with David. Just pleasant, short little, hey, how you doing? We sat at a lunch table at Rock on the Range together for 5 minutes. And I mean, look, we all kind of function in our own little isolated worlds. I mean, me and Dave, and you know, now it's getting more and more where I manage David's stuff in Megadeth and I kind of deal with management on certain things. But the worlds are very, very, very separated. They let us do our thing, which is what we do, and nobody really gives us any shit. And David suits up, shows up, and rocks out for Megadeth, and you know, but they've been very supportive and cool, and don't really complain about anything we do. And again, so it's been, you know, again, I have the utmost respect for Mustaine and the Megadeth camp and everything they do, but they're just, again, to me, it's just two totally separate ends of a spectrum. And it was kind of like that when I worked with Phil Collin too from Def Leppard. He was kind of over, you know, doing Man Raised and operating kind of in his own little wheelhouse away from the Def Leppard organization, but they were all supportive and they were all cool, and all those guys are great. But again, we just kind of operate over here on Ellefson Island, you know, doing our little thing, you know, that becomes less and less little all the time.
Right. Well, with the everything that goes on Ellefson Island, as you put it, how have you been able to manage or balance the musician part of it and the touring and everything with all the other pieces? I mean, you obviously have EMP, you obviously have
Monster Energy. That's how.
Monster and a lot of Ellefson coffee, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not. You know, the funny thing is, I don't even drink that. I'm more of a cold coffee guy, which is funny. I don't drink a lot of. I love coffee, but I'm not a guy who I have to wake up and drink a pot of coffee. That's David. David's like the coffee guy. You know, I love coffee. You know, I was real involved in the company and picking our brands and kind of logistics. David's the coffee guy, you know what I mean? And I'm more, you know, I mean, I'm Diet Mountain Dew, Monster, you know, I'm more espresso, cappuccino, cold coffee, you know?
Right. Well, I tell everybody I am a coffee guy, and I tell everybody that Roast in Peace is arguably the best coffee on the market. You know,
well, thank you. Yeah, you know, we put a lot of time and care into those roasts, and it's all hand roasted, and really, I mean, we're really everything we do are selective. EMP, the coffee. I mean, again, we don't just throw shit against the wall and hope it sticks. I mean, I think hopefully that comes across, that we put everything we have into everything we do, whether it's music, whether it's books, coffee, the labels. I mean, again, it's always, you know, we're a little label, and we do, you know, it's hard, man. Running a label in 2020 is hard, and it's not like we're this funded, you know, it's not 1991, it's not Atlantic Records. I mean, again, everything's shoestring, everything's very, you know, kind of, this is what it is right now, but we do our best to put out records, and I think they get, for, you know, the time and place in our business, I think they all get a lot of attention. And, you know, again, so like we put everything we have into everything we do, and I think that's the main thing about David, and that's what I love about him. Neither of us compromise, and neither of us ever really want to do anything half-assed. We're kind of, if we're in, we're all in, you know.
Right. And, you know, the unique thing about David, and you can speak to this, even though it's a direct only about David thing, he doesn't seem to, at least outsider looking in, and I've known David for, you know, 10, 15 years at this point as well. He's not one of those guys that relies on what he's done in the past. You can interview him 10 times in a row, and he'll never say, well, when I won the Grammy with Megadeth.
I know.
It's not true. That guy. He's always humbled, like, well, yeah, I was in this band. And meanwhile, it's, oh yeah, this band that just happened to sell 50 million records or whatever it is. It's like, you're not a little musician, but he's always so humble, it seems like, about his own accomplishments.
Well, yes. I mean, look, when we go down and we've experienced, I mean, again, when we go down and we do this new band, and we do these kind of more club level shows, and it's, but he's always smiling. He's always happy. He always meets the fans, and I have my place. He has his. But I mean, again, that's what he is. He's so great and so humble. And, most people would be like, fuck this. Why are we in this little club playing for 200 people? But it's like, he loves it. And we go out and it's fun, man. I mean, look, the arena thing is fun. And he has a blast playing a Megadeth, and they're an amazing band. But there's something to be said for going out and getting it like an intimate punk rock venue and in people's faces playing this, really punk rock kind of hard rock that me and David are doing now. Again, there's something to be said for that, man. I think to him, we were always joking around last year. We're in a minivan or like an SUV touring around Minnesota and Iowa and calling it the Killing Is My Business tour. And you know what I mean? It's like, it really, I think part of him loves getting back down to that level and getting dirty. I mean, like part of it is a little like, this again, but He's always so humble and so cool. And I love it. I love listening to his interviews. Like I was just saying this the other day, like, I mean, we've been best friends for years. I mean, we talk hours a day. Sure. And I still listen to every interview he does, and I can listen to him talk for hours on end. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the great thing is, I know half the time I know what he's going to say, and I'm still just intrigued by all of it. And he always has new shit to talk about. Like he never is like, oh, well, a year ago, it's always like this, and this. I mean, we keep moving.
No question, man. Well, Thom, how can people help support the foundation and or just buy Simple Truth and whatnot? Where can people go to help out a little bit?
A couple of things. So this Saturday, one last thing I want to touch on. We're doing a streaming online fundraiser called "Oh Say Can You Stream" with the Grammy Music Education Coalition. That's going to broadcast on their Twitch channel, on David's Facebook and YouTube, a couple other places. And we have, God, I'm going to have to open the list for this. I mean, it's insane. We have David and my band, obviously, Kiko, Dirk, co-host Craig Gass, Ricky Rackman, Don Jamieson, Jim Florentine, so many people. Carmine Appice, Jason McMaster, Bumblefoot, Clint Lowry from Seven Dust, Alice and Cheryl Cooper, their son Dash, who's on co-op on our label, a bunch of the guys, there's a bunch of cool pop culture people, Brian O'Halloran, Marilyn Gigliotti, and Scott Schiaffo and Ernie O'Donnell from Clerks. Scott was the Chewlies Gum guy, and Ernie's Rick Darris. And again, they were all in a bunch of the kind of Kevin Smith universe movies. But Frank Hannon, Mark Slaughter, Chip Zanoff, Adam Green, the horror producer, the Soup Nazi from Seinfeld, Dave Alvin from White Trash, Danny Cooksey, from Terminator 2 and Bad for Good, Chris Poland, Greg Hetson from the Circle Jerks. I mean, Whitfield Crane from Ugly Kid Joe, Burton C. Bell. They Might Be Zombies and Loyal Order, a couple of the newer bands we're working with. I mean, it's really like a stars. And we have some more that aren't announced yet, too. I mean, Charlie Benante from Anthrax. Like, there's so many people. I can't even. So that's going to be Saturday at 3 Central on, again, the Grammy Music Education Coalition Twitch channel and David's Facebook and YouTube kind of simulcast a couple places. So we're raising funds through that for our David Ellefson Youth Music Foundation, the Schools Out initiative, and we're going to be pushing some general COVID-19 relief charities during that as well.
Okay.
And if you want more information or to donate, you can go to our Ellefson Youth Music Foundation.org, and there's a donate link on there. And you can donate through that. You can go to Bandcamp, ellefson.bandcamp.com, and pick up the Simple Truth single. And you can either pick it up as a single or as an EP, which has the Max Norman remix of Vultures and then live versions of If You Were God and Vultures that we recorded in Milan, Italy last year. So I mean, look, those are the ways people can support. And on Bandcamp, you can also pay more and anything, you can pay whatever you want for it. It's $1 for the single, but you can pay $5, $10, and anything over obviously goes towards to the Red Cross efforts as well.
Very cool. Well, it sounds like a great thing. And I'll tell you what, everybody, everybody here, even if you're not working, you got $2. So go over there, buy the single for $1, donate an extra $1. There you go. $2. It goes to charity. Help people out that are a lot worse off than you are sitting at home watching Netflix or watching this video.
Right? Well, man, thank you again. It's always a pleasure coming on and talking about all this stuff. And there's always so much to talk about. We talk like once a year, and it's always like last time we were talking. I think we were talking about getting ready to do the tour and all the stuff. And I think the book might have just come out or was about to, and the record. And I think then we were just talking about all this stuff coming out. Now it's so weird. A year later, in retrospect, just going back and like, wow, it's all done now, and we did all this crazy shit.
Exactly, man. Well, dude. Tradition on the show, artist always picks a track to go out with. It could be one of your tracks. It could be just anything you like. What would you like us to wrap this one up with?
Man,
hardest question.
It really is. Like I had answers prepared for everything else. Ted, how about we were just talking with them, and you might not even have this one, so I can send it to you. But how about Apple Pie by White Trash? I was talking about them last night, and I love Dave Alvin, and so yeah, play that.
All right, and I absolutely do have that. I was a big fan of that. All right, well, let's check it out. It's Apple Pie. It's White Trash right here on your classic metal show.